Hey guys, how's it going? November 2019. Sorry, I didn't know what the hell was going on here. It wasn't going at first. I don't know why. I think it's going now. Let's see. Enable DVR, yes. That was weird. Okay, it looks like we're going here. So, anyways, there's been some interesting. I just want to talk about wrestling for a minute. I don't talk about it too much on this channel, but this is the thing that myself and my son watches, and tonight in about 1 hour we will have I believe the seventh episode of All Elite Wrestling coming on cable here TSN in Canada, TNT in the United States. I forget, Fight International. But there's a lot of interesting talk and debate by some big names in the community. Just a little bit of a background with myself and my son, for that matter. We, at one time, we were all WWE fans. For example, when you hear people chant CM Punk, and a lot of people don't know who CM Punk is. Now, I used to watch all the WrestleManias. I've seen WrestleMania 1. I used to be an old NWA fan. Like, I'm 47 years old. So I have been around. I haven't seen NWA Power, and I've been meaning to see it because I hear it's really good. And I'm sure it is. I enjoyed some of the NWA Ring of Honor correlation stuff, Nick Aldis. I think a lot of the old school stuff is great. And there's a mix of all kinds of stuff in AEW. There's a lot of high flying stuff. There's a lot of great tag teams. There's a lot of storytelling going on. Old school. I mean, you got the son of Dusty Rhodes, for crying out loud. You don't think he knows what the hell he's doing? He's going for the world title, which, as you can see, there is Chris Jericho. And many people will know who Chris Jericho is. Chris Jericho has totally reinvented himself long before AEW. He actually did it in New Japan a couple of years ago when he left WWE and started wrestling there, and he had a match with a guy by the name of Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega, probably not so much this past year. I would say Will Ospreay is the best wrestler, probably one of the best wrestlers in the world right now, I would say, in my opinion. But last year, Kenny Omega, I'm going to butcher his name, Suzuka Okada, from Japan. He is maybe one of if not if the best wrestlers out there as well. He is New Japan IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. So I am, both myself and my son, we watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've been watching that for the past couple of years. Chris Jericho was the reason why I got interested in New Japan. I had to check it out because I knew he was going there. I heard he was going there, and immediately I thought, "What's going on?" I knew he used to wrestle in Japan, and I knew what New Japan Pro Wrestling was, and I remember seeing some New Japan Pro Wrestling back in the WCW days, and you know, they used to just sit on there. They used to be so polite. The Japanese, they're a totally different culture over there. They'd be totally different than North America, or even Western for that matter. You talk about Europe, anywhere. It's just crazy. But so what we've got is we have an interesting talk about bias in the community and some kind of divide. There's a lot of people who are out there supposedly hating WWE or hating anybody who likes WWE. I'm not one of those. If you like WWE, so be it. I don't like it. I think it sucks. I do like NXT, and I especially liked this past Friday's SmackDown. This was a new show that premiered on Fox this year, and it actually made way for AEW to move into the Wednesday, not the Wednesday time slot, but it was originally supposed to be, I believe, the Tuesday time slot that was formerly held by SmackDown on USA Network. A few things changed. Now all of a sudden NXT is on TV on Wednesdays, and you have kind of a battle between NXT and AEW on Wednesday nights, which really doesn't amount to much other than the fact that people can pick and choose whatever they want. This is not like the Monday Night Wars. This is totally different. We're in a different era. You can, a lot of people see this stuff on YouTube. They don't even bother with the TV, which means they're not paying any money. Personally, I spent some extra money and started putting money towards cable again. I gave up my cable 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, or actually about 2.5, almost 3 years ago now, I guess it would be. I forget when that Wrestle Kingdom was, the first Jericho-Kenny match. But that was where I was reintroduced to the Young Bucks. I forgot they were Generation Me back in TNA, and I thought they were horrible in TNA. But they were totally different, and I was like, oh wow, the Young Bucks and the Bullet Club and all these other really, really cool things that are very popular with the younger demographic. But apparently, because I'm getting older, I need to supposedly grow up and be with a higher demographic, which has, for the most part, not been interested in the newer wrestling. I guess it's too young, too hip, or something, or they're more interested in the old school. And if they are, that's fine. They can like whatever they want. You know, watch whatever you want, like whatever you want. But there's a lot of talk about different people like Dave Meltzer being biased towards AEW. Perhaps he is. I can say with the same thing that Jim Cornette is biased against AEW. Despite the fact that he has shown, you know, he likes Cody, he likes Jericho, he likes Moxley. He likes a lot of the traditional style wrestling, whereas he doesn't like. There's a couple of these. There's this guy named Orange Cassidy, and he all he does is he does these little play kicks or something. Nobody sells the moves. It's all just a show. But this is the thing. Wrestling has always been a show. It's a carnival act. It's not supposed to be taken so bloody seriously, but a lot of people are taking it seriously. All of a sudden, you know, everybody's they find anything they can complain about with AEW. For those, because they say, well, you complain about WWE and their rules, and that they don't follow rules, and that they don't they can't keep consistent. There's a difference between consistency and setting rules and following rules. AEW has been very, not only consistent, they're not perfect, they've made mistakes, but they are constantly trying to improve and please not only their fan base, but they're trying to bring in people, what they call lapsed fans. There's this misconception that they're trying to just bring in casual fans, or they're trying to bring in WWE fans. That's not the case. They're not interested in bringing in WWE fans. Maybe WWE fans that are lapsed fans, or perhaps WWE fans that are tired of the same old, might get a whiff of this and say, well, wait a minute. Do I want to watch Baron Corbin versus whoever? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking on Baron Corbin. He's actually a lot better than what he was, apparently. But, and I mean, everybody whips on him. And I mean, I'm just using that example. Seth Rollins. There was a time where I really liked Seth Rollins. I thought he was really edgy. He was really something. And now he's supposedly one of the top leaders, and it's just gotten old. AJ Styles is tremendous. He's a tremendous athlete. Still a great wrestler. A pretty good talker. He's doing good. So there's a lot of good talent on WWE. Actually, there's a lot of great talent. They are full of talent. in WWE. Just full of talent. And that's because of AEW. Mainly, a lot of that has a lot to do with AEW, not because AJ Styles was already there long before AEW, but they started locking up a lot of this talent because a lot of people were just basically ready to leave because they weren't being used. All of a sudden, they start locking up their talent. They start offering them huge amounts of money to stay because they were legitimately scared of AEW. Because all of a sudden, something new and something cool was gaining momentum, and Vince McMahon saw it coming, and he feared it. And he still has a lot of money. He has had issues with Saudi Arabia. He with all the public relation crap going on over there. I mean, there was a flight. The wrestlers got stranded for about 24 hours over there. We don't know what the deal is about that still, as far as I can tell. But all these things, my son loves All Elite Wrestling. Not all his friends like All Elite Wrestling. He has a few friends that do. He has some friends that just like WWE. So be it. Not everybody likes. Some people like Coke. Some people like Pepsi. No big deal. Like what you like. I mean, there's so many different shows and different things on TV. Some people like sports. Other people don't. So, All Elite Wrestling. Here's the thing as far as Jim Cornette. And there's this misconception out there that supposedly what's going on in regards to this old school, it's that it's not believable. Well, for years, people have known that wrestling is not real. Why does it have to be believable? Did anybody way back when The Undertaker first premiered and beat Hulk Hogan, did anybody believe that he was actually an Undertaker or a dead man, or that when people got buried alive that they were actually buried alive? No, I enjoyed the buried alive matches. I knew it was fake. I actually enjoyed the Buried Alive matches. I thought they were great. I enjoyed some of the first Hell in the Cells as well. I mean, the last Hell in the Cell ended in a no contest or some crap like that. Now, I don't watch WWE. I mean, are you kidding me? It ended in a no contest? And then they wound up giving the title to the guy that they were trying to get the title or something. It's just like, okay. So, you got this character who's way over. Personally, I'm not a big fan of The Fiend. I like Bray Wyatt, but I don't like the Fiend character. I don't get it. But I understand he's very popular with a lot of people, so hey, if he's very popular, so be it. It's something fresh, it's something different. I think good for WWE. Let him, if somebody said once, if something's over, if it's over with the crowd, that's all that matters. So if Orange Cassidy is over with the crowd in AEW, so be it. Luchasaurus is probably he's injured right now. He's with AEW. I first saw him, and I laughed when I saw him in Ring of Honor. I was like, they call him half dinosaur, half lucha, half dinosaur, half Luchasaurus, and whatever. And then he's going on saying that he started doing promos before he got injured about how he has a master's degree or something like that. I'm like, when I first heard this guy, I was like, what the hell? This guy's dressed up in a dinosaur mask. Does anybody believe he was a dinosaur? But here's the thing: he's a damn good wrestler, and he can talk. And he had a guy by the name of Jack Perry, Luke Perry, the late Luke Perry's son, Jack Perry, which goes by Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy is one of the most over. Now he's with this Marco Stunt kid, and Marco Stunt, he is like really small. He does the twerking thing or whatever. I'm not that much into Marco Stunt, but I think he's charismatic and he's okay. And so what? Rey Mysterio is very talented, but does anybody believe Rey Mysterio can beat the biggest heavyweights and win a title? He did, but that's why they have weight classes in the UFC, folks. They have weight classes for a reason, and that's because it's unfair for some big guy to beat a little guy up. Yes, and they have. I'll show you this here. This is where wins and losses matter. Now, mind you, there are some exceptions when they're considered non-sanctioned matches. I remember WCW doing something similar to this, and they did a rankings. This is the roster. If I can take you over to the roster here of AEW. So, Chris Jericho, longtime veteran. I think he's about the same age as me, if I'm not mistaken. I'm 47. He's about the same age as me, if I'm not mistaken. He still goes. He's a legitimate rock singer in a band called Fozzy. He comes out to his own music. It's really, really good. He is very, very reinvented, very cool. One of the best talkers in the business. Period. Rio, she's I'm okay with Rio. SCU, great tag team. These guys can go in there, and they're more of an old school tag team. But anyways, when you go into the roster, you'll start seeing these stats. You got win-loss records. Now, I think eventually you can click onto these, and they'll probably have bios and stuff like this. But all these guys who got the win-loss records, as you can see, Chris Jericho is undefeated. Christopher Daniels, SCU, Chuck Taylor, best friends. Cody, he is now the number one contender. He's also an executive vice president. He is coming out on a pay-per-view on Saturday where he's challenging for the AEW title now. As you can see, he's got a draw. Well, this kid here had a draw with him. Oddly enough, they're side by side. You can see the singles record. That is his only blemish as a single. They took him to, I think it was a 15-minute draw on TV. Phoenix, he's the Lucha Brothers, a tremendous tag team. Probably one of the best tag teams out there. But you can see everybody has stats here. Jake Hager, he's an MMA fighter now, former Jack Swagger in the WWE. He hasn't had a match yet. Joey Janela, I like Joey. These guys are more hardcore guys. Jimmy Havoc, now it's all alphabetical, which is John Moxley. This guy has totally reinvented himself, big time. He hasn't really so much reinvented himself, except he's really opened himself. Now he doesn't have too many matches because he's done a lot of promo work. He's done a lot. He's done a lot of run-ins. Kenny Omega and John Moxley have a lights out match where basically a win and loss doesn't matter, but it's totally hardcore. So they're basically it's lights out means it's not sanctioned by AEW, even though of course we all know it's part of AEW. It's going to be part of the show, and it's like, but the wins and losses are not going to matter. What's likely going to happen, I would imagine, in this case, is John Moxley is going to beat Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega, he's considered one of the best singles wrestlers in the world. And he is also an executive vice president with the company, along with the Young Bucks and the before-mentioned Cody, the American Nightmare, son of the late Dusty Rhodes, executive vice president. So, but these guys are putting over now, with the exception of Cody. Most of these guys have been putting over other wrestlers. As you can see, he's got a 2-2 record. Kenny Omega has lost a few matches this year. There's this Luchasaurus guy with a mask. He's awesome. Unfortunately, he's injured right now. MJF, this kid is totally in character all the time. He is such a heel. Now, the weird thing is he's buddies with Cody, I'm suspecting everybody suspects he's going to eventually turn on Cody. That's what everybody's thinking. He was on color commentary last night in what they call a YouTube. If you ever see All Elite Wrestling, you want to check out All Elite Wrestling and you haven't seen it on TV, first of all, like I said, 8 o'clock on TNT. There's a pay-per-view on Saturday. But if you ever want to check it, go to All Elite Wrestling. You can go right here to that website. You can go and you can check out the latest Dark. And what that is it's Dark is considered dark matches, but they actually televise the matches that don't make it on TV. So you have a 2-hour show and you have one additional hour. MJF, my God, he is gold. This guy is future. He said his catchphrase is "I'm better than you, and you know it." And I can't even give justice to this guy. I mean, I can't imitate him. He can't be imitated. This guy is just tremendous. He is such a heel. And he you try to get him to go out of character, forget it. He just comes with the zingers and the one-liners, and he reminds me so much of The Rock. He reminds me so much of The Rock, except he's even better, I think. He's going to be a future world champion. He's going to be big in this business. This is a Marco stunt. This is Mr. Fun Size. This kid is everybody. He's creating a controversy, even though look, the guy's not even winning. Like, give me a break. Everybody's so worried about him. Who's he? What the hell's the deal? So what? He's losing. He's getting a few things in. He's doing little twerks or whatever. Nobody expects him to win a world title. Matt Jackson, like I said, this is one of the best tag teams in the world. The Young Bucks, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson, as well. Here's this Orange Cassidy guy, 1-0 in the trios. This guy pours baby oil on himself to get out of moves and whatever, and yeah, he's 1-1. He doesn't wrestle that much. He's actually he was actually Kenny Omega's interpreter in Japan. So he's fun. Pentagon Jr., the Lucha Brothers, this guy. Oh, I mean, the Bastard Pac. He was Neville in WWE. I used to love watching him. One of the, and I mean, you talk about technical singles wrestlers. I mean, wow. And this guy's high flying too. He's got all the stuff. He's got all the different. He's got submission. He's got the aerial moves. I love it. Peter Avalon. He's just what these guys are. These two here are technically what you call jobbers. But they're good. I mean, QT is kind of new. He's actually a member behind the scenes with All Elite Wrestling. I didn't realize he was a wrestler, and then they introduced him within the last couple of weeks. So he's a wrestler. Sammy Guevara, he's part of a faction with Jericho called the Inner Circle, and but Peter Avalon, like I said, he's a jobber, but he's called the Librarian. He's got he has a girl who's also another librarian. Santana, Scorpio Sky Tag Team Champion of SCU. Sean Spears, this guy, he's from St. Catharines, where I live. Now they bill him as Niagara Falls, Ontario, which is where I work and where I grew up most of my life. I lived and grew up for probably until grade. I was going to say grade 5. No, I moved to the north end of Niagara Falls. I was there until I was into my mid-20s. I think mid to late, around 20, 25, 27 before I moved out. Before I moved out with a girlfriend here in St. Catharines, and I've been in St. Catharines ever since. Not with the same girlfriend, obviously, but Sean Spears, he is from St. Catharines. Very good. He has a manager by the name of Tully Blanchard, which you may have heard of. He's part of the Four Horsemen, which was with Arn Anderson, I guess you would say Ole Anderson at one time, Barry Windham, and of course the one and only Nature Boy Ric Flair. So back in the NWA days, so it's great to see Tully Blanchard back, and he's managing Sean. He got his first win the other night on Dark, finally, but he's lost against guys like Cody and whatever. Sonny Kiss, he's kind of like this is a guy, yes, but he kind of reminds me of what Goldust used to do. In fact, he had a match with Dustin Rhodes, who is the former Goldust. Just basically plays the feminine side, like a Gorgeous George type thing, I guess you'd call it. Dark Order, Stu Grayson. These guys are talented. They're not well over, I would say. The Dark Order isn't. Trent of Best Friends. I think Best Friends have a lot of potential. And then you got the women, Allie. I like her. She's a little what they would call green, I would find. I saw her match on Dark last night. I thought it was a little bit sloppy. But she certainly tries, and I think she's only going to get better. Awesome Kong, a legend. Been in the WWE as well. Bea Priestley, I didn't know much about her. The only thing I knew about her was that she was the girlfriend of Will Ospreay, who Will Ospreay is my favorite wrestler in New Japan, in all of wrestling, actually, Will Ospreay. She's really good. Little bit stiff. She gave one woman a concussion, and they're playing off on it like that she's actually dangerous. I guess she is, although I'm sure it was accidental. With this woman here, Britt Baker, who they were it looked like they were billing her as the one who was going to become the first AEW women's champion. It didn't happen. Brandy Rhodes, the wife of Cody, chief brand officer. She's kind of being separated from Cody right now in the storylines, and doing something with Awesome Kong. I don't know what's going on with that, but wait and see. Emi Sakura, Hikaru Shida, some of the Japanese talent. I don't know too much about them, but they're fun to watch. I'm not too much into them at the moment, but that's just probably because of the culture and trying. But they're very talented. Leva Bates, she's funny. Another jobber, but she's funny. She's her and Peter Avalon. They are funny. I don't know where they're going with this whole librarian thing, but Nyla Rose is a what do you call those? I'm sorry, and I'm butchering it. She is what do you call those? Dang. I guess she was a guy, but now she's a girl. Transgender? Is that what you call it? I apologize if I'm butchering it. I do not know much about transgender. But yeah, and I mean, you could say, well, okay, well, she's got male testosterone or whatever the hell it is, or whatever, but she's, it's wrestling, so I'm not too worried about it. But she's fun to watch. She has some pretty good moves, and hey, more power to her. Penelope Ford, interesting. Rio, of course, the women's champion. Sadie Gibbs, I like her. Shana, she just debuted the other week, and I like her. I really do. I think she has a lot of potential, and she was given kind of a tryout. She lost her match. She was given a tryout, and then she got a very, very good reaction by a lot of the people in the crowd and online, and they were very high on her. And what did they do? They signed her to a contract. So you can tell this company actually gives a damn. Some of the names, various names. You can see Jim Ross, longtime announcer, legendary with Jerry the King Lawler on Raw. Excalibur, he is a great. I don't know if you call him a color commentator. He knows a lot of the moves and everything too. So he is awesome. Alex, he's kind of new. He was given a bit of a bum hard time by a lot of the fans when he first started out. So Eventually, Tony Schiavone came on, which is legendary WCW Nitro announcer, and then I think he was in the NWA as well at one time. Justin Roberts, great ring announcer. Golden Boy, I don't know too much about him other than he has announced a few times. He's pretty good. Alex, I'm not too familiar with, but anyways. Then you got the referees. I like her. Daughter of Earl Hebner, great referee. I don't know too much about. Well, Earl Hebner is in here, so I'm surprised he's in here. I haven't seen him. He's a legendary ref. WCW, WWF, WWE. Paul Turner, Billy Gunn, Mr. Ass, as he was called in the WWF. Jerry Lynn, hardcore legend. These guys are basically coaching the young talent, and there's a lot of guys that are also helping out some of the more legendary wrestlers, helping out behind the scenes, giving these guys advice and whatever. So my whole thing, and I guess just to wrap this up because I'm gonna calm down so I can enjoy this in another half an hour. My whole thing to the people out there that are saying the tag rules are a little bit different. But they have specified what those tag rules are. And if you have Lucha Libre in Mexico is totally wild. People can come in at any time, do whatever they want, or something like that. I think there's some rules based in it. I really don't know. But they were very specific on the first couple of episodes. Actually, I don't know if it was the first couple of episodes or if it was the first couple of pay-per-views. They were very specific on what the tag rules were. And usually in a tag team match, and this is where a lot of the criticism for AEW comes, is actually they have a very strong tag team division. They are very focused on tag teams being in main events. So they are very tag team heavy. Now, a lot of the criticism on AEW has been with the tag team rules. It's been confusing. There have been some instances where people were not using the tag ropes, people were tagging with inside the ring. That's certainly not within the rules. However, one of the big differences between their rule as far as how long you have. Normally, in most wrestling, like if you're used to WWE or whatever, when you tag your opponent, or tag your partner, I should say, that partner can go, you can still stay within the ring. You have a 5 count to get out of the ring. Usually it's a pretty fast 5 count too. Immediately we were told that, number one, that they wouldn't have a 5 count, they would have a 10 count. And it was and it was the referee's discretion as to how he was going to administer it. In other words, it was very vague, but at least there was something laid out. It's not written down anywhere. There's no rule book you can find. I don't even know if there's a WWE rule book out there that you can find, to be quite honest, and to be fair, if you want to compare apples and oranges. But so there's this 10 count. What often happens is, and I think the reason why they did that is it gave the ability to have extended periods of double teaming. And that's where the controversy is, because it's not traditional tag teaming that people are used to. And a lot of people are getting all up in arms about it because they don't know who the legal men are. The referees, to be honest, I think you're getting confused as well because they're not used to it. But they are getting used to it. It's getting better as far as I'm concerned. I think some of the legal tags are getting better. I think some of, they're trying not to overdo it. And I think the refs have to establish something. So I think, is there improvement they can make upon it? Absolutely. But the one thing I find about this rule is they're consistent. They're consistent. I wouldn't say that the refs are consistent because it's up to their discretion. If it's up to their discretion, well, that totally gives them an open window to do whatever the hell they want. That discretion rule is usually thrown in A lot of times they'll throw that in as a referee's discretion as far as when to administer the 10 or in some places 20 counts. And see, there's differences. Some places use a 10 count when you're outside the ring, other people use a 20 count, such as New Japan. So when they administer that, it's referee's discretion as to when he's supposed to start counting. He can go in, he can administer, because it's a big match. They don't, the other thing has to do with what they call foreign objects. What can they use? Can they use a foreign object without getting disqualified? Can they throw somebody in the barricade? Is that considered a foreign object? I mean, there's so many different bending of the rules, so to speak, and people are getting all upset and say, "Oh, they're doing this, they're doing that." Quite frankly, there's a lot of people on both sides. There's AEW, there's calling anybody who likes WWE and WWE sucks and all that stuff. Okay, most people who like AEW do not like WWE because they're two totally different things. Some people do. I personally like NXT just as much as I like AEW, and I'm open to hopefully seeing some improved WWE. I can watch SmackDown. I want SmackDown to succeed. I want SmackDown to get better. SmackDown was great this past Friday, and the reason why was because everybody was trapped in Saudi Arabia and the NXT guys came down. And what did happen? It was just a refreshing show. Raw apparently wasn't so great, although some people said it was okay. I don't know. The main roster has just been... They had 3 hours of wrestling on Raw every week, and it was getting so tiring a few years ago. I was getting tired of that. The pay-per-views were not that great. NXT has been very consistently performing great stuff, and it's sad to see the NXT for me personally, and even my son. It was sad to see the NXT talent would get called up to the main roster. So you would see these people grow, and then they would go to the main roster, and a lot of times they would be buried. They would never be utilized properly. And that really turned me off of WWE. And there's been times I've been with WWE. There's been times I've turned down WWE in the past as well. Back in the WCW days, I preferred WCW over a WWF back then. And the reason why was because it was fresher. It was WWF had gotten, they had Doink the Clowns and Duke the Dumpster Drosy's and all this other garbage. But they were always like that. For the longest time, they had these cartoon-based characters. And yet, people hawk about it. It's like, they're not real or whatever. It's not realistic. And yet, they used to have Doink the Clown, for crying out loud. What's worse? Orange Cassidy or Doink the Clown? Seriously. For me personally, I find Orange Cassidy is at least over. I don't think Doink the Clown was as over, maybe with the kids, but, and I mean little kids. I'm not talking about kids as in teenagers and young adults who think Orange Cassidy's great. For me personally, I'm okay with it. It's an interesting character. Doesn't kill the show as far as I'm concerned. I'm curious what he's going to do. It's not all about the wrestling. It's not all about... Wrestling has never always been all about the wrestling. And is it great that it's sports-centric? Is it great that win and loss matter? Absolutely. And that's the biggest criticism that WWE was given, because wins and losses. People would all of a sudden get title shots for no apparent reason. And then you had people who were winning that weren't getting their due, and all of a sudden other people would jump the line and get title shots. It didn't make much sense. But anyways, I'm going to rest my voice because I'll be yelling pretty soon anyways. Or freaking out, or whatever you want to call it. My son should be coming down shortly, and we're going to watch some AEW Dynamite at 8 p.m. tonight. And this is, like I said, on Wednesdays. The pay-per-view's coming up 7 o'clock. Pre-show 7 o'clock on pay-per-view this Saturday. Pay-per-view they're calling Full Gear. That's the other thing too with their pay-per-views. They're going to run 4 a year. I mean, in comparison, WWE runs I think once a month, sometimes twice. In some cases, they run quite a bit of pay-per-views in a year. Now, mind you, The big difference is these are traditional pay-per-views where you actually have to put in the money as opposed to a network. The network was very convenient and very economical. It used to cost $120 and you got all the pay-per-views, and you used to get NXT. That was what really made it for me, was NXT towards the end. That was the only thing that was worth it for me, was NXT, because the pay-per-views were not that great. Even the WrestleManias were getting pretty good. And I've been to WrestleManias. I've been to WrestleMania in Toronto, where I saw Hogan and The Rock. I wasn't to the WrestleMania prior to that, but I did watch it on. I did watch it on pay-per-view. I've watched. I think almost every WrestleMania that I can recall, except the last couple. I've missed out on. Since I gave up WWE, but I certainly will take a look on YouTube and look at look at results and look at videos that show up, see how things are, and hear reviews and hear what people think. But and I am watching SmackDown on Friday nights for now, but it's getting. Last Friday was a great show. I got a funny feeling they're not going to be able to repeat it, but we'll see. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm willing to give them a shot and see what happens. For 2 hours on a Friday night, I'm okay with it. So we'll see what happens. But for now, I am certainly with as they say, I'm with AEW, is the whatever the hell the hashtag is. I'm certainly one. My son is as well. This is our favorite product to see. And NXT, I would love to see it. I would love to see it. Unfortunately, I don't have access here in Canada, nor would I buy the extra station, because we have a very thin cable bundle. Actually, my ex, who basically I've got the cable from, Mom, who's upstairs with my son. She's got a different bundle that has very little sports. I don't watch cable TV. I haven't watched cable TV until AEW came on, and I started giving her some extra money to add TSN so that I could watch this on TSN in Canada. And I've been watching it for 6 weeks, and I've been paying. I pay just in Canadian funds. I pay $22 a month to watch this on a weekly basis. And that's more than what I used to pay for the WWE Network. So, I mean, that's a big amount of money just to watch wrestling. But not to mention the pay-per-views are, I think, $40 or $50 a shot every 4 months. The one coming up, so it's not cheap, but neither are tires for a car, which I have to get soon. So, anyways, that's it for now, guys. I'm going to end it here. So I'll take a look at the comments before I leave, and yeah, nothing there going on there. Kind of figured that, but anyways, I'll be back with my normal content at a later time. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.